Hi, everyone. My name is Courtney. I write under the pen names Lyra Parish, and I'm one half of the USA Today bestselling duo Kennedy Fox. To give you a little intro to me, I started writing in 2011. I self-published my first book in 2014, and since then, I have self-published 25 novels. Welcome to the 6th episode of Publishable. Today, we will be talking about literary agents for traditionally published authors and for self-published authors. I would like to introduce, or let my lovely co-hosts introduce themselves, Meg Latorre and Kaitlyn Johnson.
Hello, everyone. My name is Meg Latorre. I'm the host of the YouTube channel iWriterly, where we create videos about how to be a successful modern-day author. I'm also a science fiction and fantasy writer, developmental book editor, and former literary agent.
Hi all, I'm Kaitlyn Johnson with Corvisier Literary Agency. I'm an associate agent and I take about middle grade YA adult in various genres. And I am also a freelance editor at K Johnson Editorial.
So we're just going to start off with the first question. What do literary agents do for traditionally published authors?
So I know Meg was an agent with us as well. So she's definitely got experience with this. We basically, the easiest way that I always tell people, you go to family functions and they're like, oh, I have no idea what that is. And I basically say, you know how actors have agents to get roles in movies and stuff? Writers have agents to get places that will publish their book or sell those rights and stuff like that. So basically we're the middleman, but as most of us well know, we're not just that. We're your editor, your brainstormer, your therapist, your best friend, your hated enemy, because we make you chop all those lovely little bits up. We're a lot of things, but most of the time we're just that person who takes your work and takes it to people who we think will want to sell it and make it big.
Yeah, and echoing what Kaitlyn said, I will add to that just by simplifying a little bit and saying that literary agents, they represent authors and they pitch their unpublished manuscripts to editors at publishing houses with the hope of selling that book, and then you get published traditionally, so maybe your book would appear on bookshelves at bookstores, online, and at other places.
So how would you suggest authors go about finding literary agents?
Writer's Digest. Writer's Digest has a blog with new agents and alerts and stuff like that. Book Twitter, agents are everywhere. Google, LinkedIn. Don't reach out on LinkedIn, but you can find people on LinkedIn. You can find what company they're at, not to email them or send them materials or anything like that. Publishers Marketplace, if you want to look up what sales they do and stuff, see if they're even interested in what you write. Basically just a lot of research. Or conferences, if you want to meet up with us. And the same thing for editors and freelance editors too. I know Meg and I know a bunch of freelance editors who go to conferences and stuff. That's a really good place to find them and get one-on-one sessions with them possibly.
Again, I'm going to ditto basically everything that Kaitlyn just said. So first thing, I feel like you can just Google agencies. So just Google top literary agencies and see what comes up. Look at the agencies based on sales and titles that I can recognize. And I'm like, oh, cool. I've read this book in this genre and it's just like mine. Oh, that sounds like it could be a good fit. And then you just kind of keep going from there. You can look on places like Query Tracker. You can also look on places again like Publishers Marketplace, and for that it's really good, like Kaitlyn said, to check for sales, because one way to tell an agent versus a schmagent is, have they sold books? Are they legitimate? Are they doing what they say they're going to do? You can look on Twitter. There's a lot of literary agents that are active on Twitter. Don't just take their Twitter presence as oh, this person must be legit because they have a Twitter account. Do your research after that, but you can start from Twitter. And regarding the whole agent schmagent thing, I would double check on places like Writer Beware, which is a resource that I think is sponsored by the Science Fiction and Fantasy Writers of America and a bunch of other associations. And it just kind of gives heads up to any potential schmagents.
Absolute right, definitely too. Writer Beware.
So would you recommend, that book that you can buy that's the literary agent book of whatever year it is? Would you recommend people pick that up as well?
I would definitely pick that up. I actually have an article published in the last one, and I used it to look up stuff and look at how big other agencies are and, to make sure my entry was correct. It really is a lot of stuff that tells you exactly what they're taking. And if this agency even does strictly nonfiction, so you're going to be well, I'm not going to bother looking them up. And then you go online and look up their site. It is helpful. They don't have everybody, but it's a really good place to start when you just are overwhelmed and just need some place to find names.
I think for any of the resources that we reference for finding literary agents, you want to use them as a starting point. The books are not the answer to everything. Maybe an agent 6 months ago, when the editor of those books were asking for information, they said they were representing XYZ genres and age categories, but 6 months later, they might have closed to certain ones and they're looking for different types. So use that as a starting point.
What are some best practices that you would recommend for querying agents?
Follow the guidelines. Most agents, like we all have a profile page on our website and it says what we're looking for, what we want, what we don't want, and what you need to send. We do Query Tracker, but like Meg remembers before Query Tracker when we were just having this one big inbox where everyone sent all of their stuff to the inbox. The interns, which was myself and Meg at a time, but we'd put them in the boxes of the specific agent. And if you didn't include all the stuff you needed to, like we asked for a synopsis, if you didn't include the synopsis, the intern would send a polite reply saying you didn't follow the submission guidelines correctly. So now we are deleting this. So like follow the guidelines. That's like number one.
Agreed. I feel like as soon as you start following the guidelines, you're automatically ahead of the pack because there's so many writers who do not follow the submission guidelines. So as soon as you start following it, agents are gonna be like, a professional person. This is so wonderful. Yes, definitely follow these submission guidelines. And when in doubt, because sometimes there's like a general submission guidelines on the literary agency website, and there's different guidelines under the specific agent's bio, because usually you submit to one literary agent per agency, though it can differ. And again, always look at the guidelines. But if an agent has different submission guidelines than the agency, I would usually go with what the agent said that they wanted because you're querying that agent. And a lot of writers have questions about follow-up times. Don't really follow up with the agent after you've submitted your query to them, whether it's through email or a submission system. They usually have a specified read time, and if they don't, maybe 3 months. But again, I really wouldn't follow up unless they say it's okay to follow up. And do not attack agents via email, especially if you received a rejection. You really don't have to reply to rejections, even saying thank you for your time. It's nice. You do not have to do that. Last best practice here is if you receive an offer of literary representation from an agent and you have outstanding queries sent to other literary agents, email them, because best case scenario, you get multiple offers and then you get to pick who you want to work with.
Exactly. Especially the one about don't respond if you get a rejection. If you don't agree with it or you're angry about it, go vent to your friends or something. There's no need to email us back and yell at us or call us mean names or tell us we're stupid. You're just making yourself look really bad. It wasn't our taste. Go query to the next person. Have a stiff drink if you're that upset. Like, you really don't need to be yelling at people. And we remember you, especially in Query Tracker, because it actually tags you when you do a repeat. So we can go back and look at why we rejected you last time. And if you responded to me like that, oh, it's going to pop up. So I can see you and I don't like you. So no, it's an automatic rejection there. We hear things, we know things. And yeah, like Meg said, I say if you're going to check in 3 months, like wait 3 months and then be like, hey, you know, I sent this in on this date. Just wondering if you've had a chance to peek at it. Because for me, 3 months is a good like kick in the butt anxiety starter. Some people put on their website 4 weeks or something, and I don't know how the hell they do that unless it's a conference like request. But I would wait those 3 weeks at the very least to check in. And if you don't get a confirmation back, I know it's really stressful, but yeah, it's okay to check in and say, did you get it? Just be like super simple, super nice, not like demanding. But yeah, and don't reach out on Twitter. Like, I wasn't sure if you got it because it's been 2 weeks and it was from a contest, so I thought you'd answer sooner. Don't do that. Please don't tweet out at agents. Don't tweet at an agent at all unless they're doing like a specific ask agent session or like giving permission to people to do that. Even if you're the nicest person in the world, that's annoying.
Don't pitch your book at agents on Twitter. That's also uncool. But Kaitlyn, regarding what you said before, the follow-up for 3 months, that's for a cold query. That's not for a partial
That's
or
a cold
full
query,
request.
yeah. Like a conference or a contest request and stuff like that. I usually try to get them done faster, especially conference. I was face-to-face with you and I'm going to give you a bit more feedback. Not everyone does. So I guess you could still do 3 months for like a conference or a contest thing. I wouldn't do sooner for a conference or a contest thing because you don't know which one they're prioritizing first.
So I have another question. You always hear about these people who were like querying 12 agents at once. So when that happens, do you think it's best for the author to wait until they've heard from their top 5, their top 3? Or do you think, you know, it's just like, oh, well, I'm going to go with this person. And in that case, should they tell all those other people they've already been agented so then they're not wasting their time reading this manuscript that's already been signed? Or
we hate you if you don't. Okay, we don't hate you. But yeah, this is where Query Tracker comes in great and handy that Meg mentioned earlier, because you can actually keep track of who you're querying and like response times and like all that stuff. Don't mass query just because you're going to get confused and things are going to get complicated. And like if you want to do revisions, you have to pull it from a bunch of agents. But yeah, if you get an offer from somebody, you email everybody else who has, even if it's just your query, email all of them and be like, hey, I have an offer of representation. I would still like to, you know, hear your thoughts on this. If you can get back to me in the next 2 weeks, here's the deadline of like 2 weeks, and give them 2 weeks, because I've gotten 1 week and it's hell because we can't really reschedule our schedules that fast. I saw somebody tweeting according to it, somebody asked them once to wait 3 months.
I saw that too. I could not believe that.
Never do that. Like, I would have been like, okay, you don't want to work with me, fine. Like, that's not happening.
Like 2 weeks is the typical, once you receive an offer, do you respond to that agent who gave you the offer and said, thank you, I will let you know my final decision in 2 weeks. And that 2 weeks, you have time to tell all the other agents that you have an outstanding query with that they have the opportunity to read your whole manuscript and counter offer if they want.
Exactly. And I think you were right in saying that like they should pick their top 5, definitely, like your top list agents, because go for it. Try it. There's like 2 schools of thoughts here. There's go for the top ones, go for the ones you really love, because you never know, you might get them, and then you can like start researching more and find other things. Or you can wait to revise, but that means you're not really like solid in your work. You don't know for sure. You're a little on the fence about it. In that case, some people say wait and do some of the other ones that you're like, I like them, they're just not like my favorite. Then maybe they'll give you feedback and you can revise it and then send it to Big Fish. So it's what your comfort level is. I would suggest just being comfortable with your work and sending to the ones you really want to work with. Just my personal thing.
This is writer Meg talking, not the agent brain Meg talking, but writer Meg has feelings about this. A lot of writers say that they've queried hundreds of agents. I don't know how they can do that. I feel like there's probably like 30 agents that I think would fit me, my style, my book, based on what I've seen. Obviously, it's all based on your own research. So with that said, maybe you have a top 5 agents. So I recommend querying in batches. And what I mean by that is you query maybe 2 of your top agents and then 3 of your agents that you think would be super, super great. And then do those 5 and then send them out. And then, see what they say back, because maybe you exchange your query letter with other writers and they said it was great and you thought you had a great submission package. And then maybe you get feedback that your first page isn't very engaging or they're not connecting with the character. It's just a strategy. It's not to say that you're not confident in your writing. It's just that maybe you missed something. And so personally, I think querying in batches is good, because if there is an issue in your writing or submission package, you can catch on to it and then send the next batch of queries to folks.
All right, so we're gonna move along to self-publishing, guys. Yay!
So for self-publishing, which a lot of viewers right now are going to be like, what? It's self-publishing. How do you get an agent? So how about you chat with us on why a self-published author would actually need or even want to get an agent for their work?
Several different reasons, I think. The 2 main ones is if you want to be a hybrid author. So a lot of self-published authors will try to go the traditional published route. So they'll get an agent for that while they are also self-publishing their books. And then the other reason is so you can have an agent to deal with your sub-rights management, which is what our agent is for. So basically we have someone who looks over all contracts for foreign rights, paperback distribution, and also audiobooks and any other kind of sub-right. So we actually own and publish our ebooks and our paperbacks, and everything else outside of that, we have our agent represent us to negotiate those contracts.
Does that include audiobooks?
That does include audiobooks. We actually had our agent negotiate our contracts with Tantor, and the other one was OMG Audio, but now it's called something completely different. They actually came to us directly before we had our agent, and we didn't want to have to go through the whole, let's read this contract and make sure they're not screwing us over and all this stuff. And so we decided then that we needed to go ahead and get a sub-rights management agent. It's audiobooks. We have 2 books published by Tantor, and then we have 3 books published by Novel Audio is what they're called. And she negotiated both of those contracts for us.
Great. And so going off of that, you half answered the question already, but like, how did you go through the process of finding an agent, or they found you, or like what steps did you take to find somebody for this specific kind of agenting?
So we're represented by Kimberly Brower. She's very well known in the romance industry. So she represents a lot of pretty high profile romance authors already and takes care of their sub-rights, but she also does traditionally published authors as well. We were getting a lot of emails from audiobook distributors and it was foreign publishers that were contacting us directly along with the audiobook distributors. And when it comes to foreign, it's just like a lot of stuff that people have to deal with whenever you're trying to negotiate foreign contracts, because usually it's like Italian or French or German or all these different languages, and the different countries have different types of tax laws and you have to fill out all this paperwork. And we just were not well versed in that. This was whenever we had made USA Today several times. People started reaching out to us and we were like, we need additional help. So then we went and contacted Kimberly directly. And basically, whenever we reached out to her, we were like, this is who we are. This is what we've done. We basically gave our history, how many books we had, how many lists or whatever we had. And we asked her if she would be interested in representing us. And if she was, then to let us know and that we would go from there. And she immediately emailed us back. I say immediately, but it was like a week later, she emailed us back and said that she would love to represent us for our sub rights management. And we signed the contract. And what was great is after we signed the contract, like a week or 2 weeks later, we had 4 books in the top 10 on Publishers Weekly's list. So it was like, yay, we're not losers. You signed us and we actually can sell books. So it was really awesome. And she actually emailed us and was like, hey, just so you know, you've got 4 books in top 10 right now. So that was really cool. And yeah, we basically reached out to her. She did ask us to come with our sales numbers. So we basically had to compile every book that we had sold from the point of publishing until then, broken down on a spreadsheet because she wanted to review it before she decided. In my experience, if you're a self-published author who is going out to find a sub rights management agent, I would make sure that you have some sort of history, sales history to back that. Otherwise, why are they representing you? Agents get paid by the stuff that you can sell. And if you can't sell your ebooks and your paperback books, how are they going to sell your sub rights?
How many books would you say an author should publish, self-publish, before pursuing a sub rights agent?
Ooh, that's hard. It just depends. I think that if you are just this amazing self-published author and you're just selling tons of books straight out of the gate, I've seen people make USA Today on their second book. I would probably start looking for somebody there, somebody at that point. But the thing is you don't have to have a sub rights management agent, but I would definitely recommend getting a entertainment lawyer, somebody who is well versed with contracts, because I'll tell you, reading those contracts, you don't know what they're slipping in there. You think you understand, but I've heard horror stories of publishers slipping in that little sentence about they get to keep it until the copyright expires, and copyright is after your death times 70 years or something. So you either need to be well versed in contracts, get a sub rights management agent, or hire an entertainment lawyer.
Basically covers next question is besides that, what suggestions do you have to authors who are thinking of getting an agent? Where can they find them? What red flags should they look for? Things that maybe will help them on their search and know that what agent is really a good fit for them.
Basically use the same websites that you all mentioned. I don't know a lot of agencies that actually offer sub rights management to indie authors. I haven't seen a lot of them. I think it's something that agencies are really missing because there's a lot of opportunity, because there's a lot of successful self-published authors out there that do get contacted for foreign rights and audiobooks and all this other stuff. It's great to have an agent on your side and have somebody batting for you and telling audiobook people this is not enough money for them to sign this contract.
I mean, you're right. A lot there are a lot of agents who reach out to writers as well, saying oh, you're a self-published author and you have all these great sales. We would love to represent you to help you with these foreign rights and stuff like that because we think it could do it. But you're right. A lot of agencies don't have people who strictly deal in that. They have agents, and then they have either the agents deal with those, or a one person does all of the foreign rights and subsidiary rights for the entire agency. So that would be really difficult to take somebody on because the agents should be getting paid, but then they're not doing the work. So you're right. That's a big hole in agencies right now.
Yeah, it totally is. It's crazy whenever you start selling a lot of books and you start ranking and making USA Today and doing all this stuff, because people kind of act like vultures. They want to get you on their team. I've heard stories from friends where it's yeah, I made USA Today and I had 4 agents contact me in the same day, because agents are looking at lists, guys. And it's usually obvious when someone is a self-published author making a list because they don't always have LLCs set up, or they don't put it on their Amazon. So you can see it's published by Amazon or it's published by whoever. And so it's very obvious that, oh, they're not represented by somebody. It's good to have one. I don't regret it at all. Our agent has gone to bat for us. Agents have special powers, guys. I don't know if you realize this, but agents can just contact some people and make some magic happen. But for self-published authors, I don't think that it determines if you are successful or not. I don't think having an agent means that you're gonna sell a lot of books or you're gonna have a bunch of books translated into different languages or audiobooks or whatever the case is. And I think that you also need to be very prepared to still work for your agent. And when I say that, it's because every book that we release, we have to send a summary of every single book because she pitches those for foreign rights. And she also pitches those for audiobooks and for paperback distribution. Every single month, we have to give her our sales. We have to update a spreadsheet for her and send it to her and be like, this is what we made last month. So then she knows exactly how we're doing and where we're at. And it gives her leverage whenever she's trying to negotiate contracts for us. The summary, basically, that's one of my duties that I do for Kennedy Fox is after we're finished writing a book, I go through and I write a 4-page summary. So then she knows what this book is about, including all spoilers, every single spoiler. And it's really not hard, but sometimes after you read an entire book and you've gone through editing and then you have to do this summary, it's like, oh my God, like I still have more stuff to do to get this book out there as a self-published author with an agent.
That sounds about right. Meg, do you want to talk a little bit about hybrid publishers though, who like can still be doing self-publishing, but can also be wanting to traditional publish?
So if you guys don't know what hybrid authors or hybrid publishing is, it's essentially when an author will, in some capacity, self-publish certain titles and they will work to traditionally publish other titles. So traditional publishing usually refers to either having a literary agent and publishing through some type of publishing house, or it could be indie presses. So basically you are not publishing your own book. So it's usually two. And a lot of people call this the best of both worlds. I think by the time this video goes up, I'm going to actually have a video on this. So stay tuned for that, guys. But if you want to self-publish certain titles, maybe that is a different series. Maybe you want to self-publish in romance and you want to traditionally publish in young adult fantasy. Certain markets are booming. Courtney can talk all about how the romance market is fantastic in self-publishing, really anywhere, but specifically in self-publishing. And young adult fantasy right now is very strong in the traditional publishing space. So there is an argument that everyone just loves young adult fantasy and it's doing well all around. But anyways, short of it is you do get a little bit of both self-publishing and traditional publishing.
I did want to add a comment too that like if you have a traditional publishing agent, like for a literary agent, you don't have to start out wanting to self-publish and stuff like that. Like you can be interested in it, but if you're interested in it, you can also have a conversation with that agent if say you've written something that they don't think is marketable at the moment or that editors aren't really picking up and you still really, really want to write it, you want to do something with it. You can have a discussion with them about, well, can I self-publish this one by myself? Like if you're not going to want to work on it with me, I still want to work with you on stuff, but can I also do this self-publishing thing as well? So they should be able to talk to you about it. Because I know like one of my clients, we've been talking about one of her books we had to shelve because it wasn't the time, the market flipped over. So we're waiting on it. But if say when the future comes and we still can't sell it, she wants to self-publish it. And I would stand behind her to do that. Like that'd be totally fine as long as you know we did it right. And your agent can give you tips and stuff on that so that you're not just a self-publisher putting it out there to put it out there. Because if you have an agent, you clearly want to do more than just that. So you can still have discussions, be a hybrid author, and have that agent kind of on your team for that. So don't think as a hybrid author, it means you self-publish, then you get an agent, traditional publishing, self-publishing is behind you. Like that's not technically true.
Yeah, I know a lot of people that are hybrid authors with Harlequin. I mean, they're pretty big. I mean, they're like top 4. And the only thing that I would say is if you are a self-published author and you're going to become hybrid, I would really check your non-compete clause, because with non-compete, there are clauses where, oh, if we sign this book, you can't self-publish for 6 years to a month. Sometimes it's less, sometimes it's more. And in the self-publishing realm, guys, everything moves very quickly. So for you to have a very successful self-published pen name, and then you're trying to get a traditionally published deal, and then you have to wait before you can publish after that book publishes, it could potentially hinder the success that you have for your future self-published books. So just a pro tip.
That's a great point. I would not sign a contract that says you have to wait, like, did you say 6 months or 6 years? Because 6 months I could see.
6 months, yeah.
Okay.
6 months.
Be careful, because Meg had a really good point of if you wanted to self-publish romance but publish traditionally YA, because your compete really shouldn't interact there. Like you can get that compete clause to say something like you can't put on sale a YA for the next six months or something because it would compete with yours. But you really want to watch out for those clauses and try to get them as specific as possible. So maybe get it saying that you can't put out a YA that's from the same world as your book for this much amount of time. Or you can't put out a YA that is a love story involving kickboxers or something like that. Like make it very specific, because if you self-publish something similar, if they have the term similar in that clause, they can come after you and shut you down. So that's a really good point. And that another way, if you want to be a hybrid author, have your agent go over those clauses with you and ask their advice when you are preparing to go self-publish, because you need to make sure you're not stepping in any traps.
Question for both of you as far as hybrid authoring. Is it smarter to write self-published books that are in one genre and then traditionally published books in another genre? Can you do both? Can you traditionally publish and self-publish in the same genre, or is that just a sticky mess and not worth doing?
I wouldn't say it's not worth it. I'm not gonna lie, it's probably going to be easier when you're dealing with editors and non-compete clauses and stuff like that. But I still think you should be focused on what you want to write. You shouldn't be pigeonholed just because it's a little bit difficult at times, which again is why that contract should be gone over with a fine-tooth comb. Yeah, I wouldn't tell somebody like that it's too sticky and it's too much of a hassle and like you're really not better off going somewhere else. But I would tread carefully. And you can still write the same genres but make them completely different. One is like an Harry Potter world and one is like an Avatar world. Completely different fantasy types that really shouldn't intersect at all, but they could still, well, Avatar's adult and Harry Potter's that, but you know what I mean, the same ages still, but that shouldn't really maybe a factor. So you could still do something like that.
I think whenever you're going hybrid and you have a pretty large reader base already and you're trying to become a traditional author, that if you use that same name and you're pitching your work and you've got this like amazing sales record, it could be really great for you because they could pay you more money for that book. Essentially, they know that you make $1 million a year on your books. Hey, they can sell books. So this name we're just going to sign them X amount of dollars, you know, so it can be a really great thing. But I have seen numerous self-published authors burn themselves thinking that they got this amazing deal from this top 4 publisher. Oh my God, dreams come true. I'm going to be in airports. They were really in airports, and it really stifled their growth in self-publishing because they lost all that time of not being able to publish. So I think that it can help you, but I think that it can also hurt you if you don't have an agent that you're very upfront with about, I will give them 3 months, I will give them 6 months, but I'm not going to give them a year because that's way too long. In the future, what I want to do is I want to continue self-publishing under romance underneath the many pen names I have, but I want to traditionally publish young adult underneath my real name. And so that's the goal. And I hope that there's not like some sort of non-compete because it would be totally 2 different audiences. I don't think that most of the women that read these romance books, like my audience, is going to go read a young adult book. I mean, they could, but I don't think the majority of them do. It would be more like, oh, Courtney wrote a book, let me give this book to my kid. All right, everyone. So that was our 6th episode of Publishable. If you have any other questions for us, feel free to leave them below in the comment section and we will get back to you. We appreciate you all so much and thank you for hanging out with us. And we'll see you again in our next episode that will be held on Meg's channel, iWriterly. The links are going to be in the description if you need to find her. So thanks so much, y'all. We appreciate you being here. Bye.
Bye.